Years ago, first of all, we left our hero, Scaeric the Red, in the Midwest in Indiana. And David asked if I could write a poem that brought him from there to the founding of Scaer, France, which is a little bit tricky.
Well, he gave you plenty of notice.
Yeah. And this is a story about how they moved to Indiana to founding the town of Scaer, France. The Ballad of Scaeric the Red, Part 2. Our hero, Scaeric, rested from his plow and turned his wife free from the heavy yoke she pulled across the field. He wiped his brow, surveyed his flat dominion, then he spoke of wanderlust. My buttercup, see how my corn and pigs have thrived, and how the smoke rises from a hearth my neighbors covet. My dunghill like Valhalla rises above it. And yet, he said, for all that I achieve on this blessed fertile land, it's pretty boring to live in these bleak fields. I often grieve for those uncharted years when we were oaring across the sea. Let's sell our farm and leave tomorrow morning, dear. She tried ignoring another of his passing fascinations, but he went to the dock for reservations. At 4 a.m. they joined the crowd that slumped in seaside chairs to watch the early ship. They sold their home, their chattel, and they dumped what they had left, not falling for the clip of extra fees for bags. Then they were bumped and bumped and bumped. Until the trip not only was provided to them gratis, they soon possessed a sailing apparatus. They weave their way among the jagged rock, through currents like a Black & Decker blender, held hands beneath the moonlit cliffs of chalk, fought krakens with their swords, and heard the tender polyphonies of sirens singing Bach, and saw their natives eager to surrender their copper arrows, catapults, and bows, and concentrate on Roqueforts and Bordeaux's. Strong wine and cheese seemed like the proper course, but it was late. The locals had their fun and closed their shops and streets before the Norse came to their town. There wasn't anyone able to drive, too cheap to rent a horse. They sent a message to Leif Skerrickson. We need a ride out of the port, my dear, so saddle up and get your beast in gear. Leif was in a seaside honky-tonky when he received the call from Brittany. By blowing on his North Atlantic conch, he called his servants from their local brie and Chardonnay and cried, prepare my donkey and make the bed, for we have company. He shot along the narrow gravel path as soon as he had brunched and had a bath. His parents hoped to see the local sights and asked if they could visit Notre Dame. And when they traveled east for several nights, they saw his chance. All churches look the same. He said, the city lights. Goodbye, have fun, he called. I'm glad you came. His mom looked doubtful. Darling, are you sure? It didn't seem this small in their brochure. And so they were abandoned in a village that had a bistro and 2 butcher shops. Though their initial impulse was to pillage cafe au lait and marinated chops, they had nowhere to go and turned to tillage. By specializing in exotic crops they brought with them, they had a vast plantation that sold tobacco to the Gallic nation. You'll be relieved to hear I'm done, that's all. You'll hear about them rolling cigarette. You'll hear no more about their cigarettes. We leave them to the local cheese cantrell and posing with berets and stale baguettes. Unless your Uncle Dave, who had the gall to have me write this history, regrets. The Scaers were Britain's refugees whose home was Northern Europe. It was Rome.